Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Wednesday, September 21st, Tuesday, September 21st, 2021 meeting of the Lake Havasu City Board of Adjustments. Would you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Donald Bergen.
Yes.
Kevin Casey.
Here.
Michael Gordon. Robin Hill.
Here.
Martin Toomey.
Here.
And Jim Harris.
Here. Okay. Minutes of the last meeting, which was a meeting to approve minutes. Are there any corrections or additions, deletions of those minutes? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Anybody? Mr. Bergen?
I move to approve the minutes of the last meeting as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Bergen. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Ms. Hill. Any further discussion? Let's go ahead and call for the question then.
Mr. Bergen.
Yes.
Kevin Casey. Kevin Casey.
Is that your vote? Yes? We're voting on the motion. The motion to approve the minutes.
Yes.
Your vote is yes. Okay.
I wasn't here for the minutes.
It's okay. You're voting to either approve or disapprove. Okay.
Robin Hill.
Yes.
Martin Toomey.
Yes.
And Jim Harris.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Okay, let me first start by saying that this is a public hearing. The structure of the meeting will allow the staff to present an item. The board may ask staff questions, and then the applicant will have the opportunity to present. Board members may have questions for the applicant, and then I will open the discussion to the audience. We ask that if you would like to address the board, please do so, but there is a limit of 1 trip to the podium per topic and 3 minutes to speak. I will then close the discussion and bring the item back to the applicant and staff for rebuttal and or recommendations. The board will then hear a motion to discuss and vote. The first item on today's agenda is item number 21-01-300092, a request for a major variance from Development Code Section 14.04.01, Table 4.01-1, dimensional standards for residential districts to allow a 13.5-foot encroachment into the required 25-foot front yard garage setback for a new garage in the single-family residential R1 district. Mr. Morris, your presentation.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. Here's an area map. The subject property is on the corner of Acoma Boulevard and Gem Lane on North Acoma Boulevard, just between Rainbow Avenue, north and south. The property here is outlined in red. It's zoned single-family residential, R1 zoning. The other lots in the neighborhood are also zoned R1, are developed with a mix of single-family homes and vacant lots. Here's the tract map for that subdivision. Again, the subject property is outlined in red. The lots sizes in this immediate neighborhood range in size from 0.23, about a quarter acre, to 0.8 acres overall. There are some reverse corner lots in the area. Those lots range from 0.3 to 0.43 acres in size. The subject property is 0.33 acres and is a reverse corner lot. The size of the subject property is not unusual for this specific subdivision area. As far as the building setbacks, which is what they're asking for an exception to, this is what we call a reverse corner lot. So it means it has basically 2 front yard setbacks and then 2 side yard setbacks. So along both the street frontages, both Acoma Boulevard and Gem Lane, their setbacks are 20 feet for the house or the side of a garage or carport. A garage or carport opening facing either of those streets has a 25-foot setback. The other 2 setbacks would normally be 5 feet. So on this south side, there's a 5-foot setback. On the east side, it would normally be a 5-foot setback, but there's a 10-foot utility easement there, so that takes dominance. So it's a 10-foot building setback on that east side. So the request is for encroachment into this Acoma Boulevard 25-foot garage setback. The subject property currently has a home that was built in 1975. There's a patio cover that was built in 1990. A building permit application for a detached garage was received by the Development Services Department for review on March 5, 2021, and a permit was issued for the garage on May 6, 2021. The garage building permit application and site plan are included within your packet. Once it was permitted, the city staff received a report that the garage was under construction at the property. It did not appear to meet the setbacks for that Acoma Boulevard property. Staff investigated the request and found a concrete slab and framed walls and roof trusses were in place. 2 building inspections had already been completed at the location. After additional internal review of the plans, staff determined that the building permit was issued in error. The application contained incorrect measurements as the owner used the back of the sidewalk instead of the property pin to obtain measurements provided to staff. Here's a copy of the submitted site plan. It's a little kind of hard to read here, so I'm going to go to the next slide. It has a little bit of overlay on it. So I'm going to flip between these 2. So down here is the existing home and patio, which was permitted, built years ago. Here's the subject garage that's under construction. Along with this permit, this garage, and there was an additional garage that's not under construction that was part of this permit. So both of these are permitted under the permit that was issued in error, and this is the garage that's under construction right now. This additional garage, there's no construction going on at this point. Here's again the site plan. Here's Acoma Boulevard at the top, Gem Lane over here to the left on this site plan. The site plan is showing some dimensions here. It shows a 20 feet to something and a 6 feet to something else. So it looks like 26 feet or 20 feet. This is the site, again, the site plan that was submitted and that was based on the permit that was submitted. And this is what the review was for and what the permit was review and issuance was based on. As a result of looking over that and determining that it was probably not meeting the setbacks, a stop work order was placed on the property to halt any further construction and allow city staff and the property owner time to address the encroachment issue before any more work was done. A placement survey was ordered by the city to determine the exact encroachment. The survey indicated the garage encroaches 13.5 feet into the required 25-foot Acoma Boulevard property line setback. Here's a copy of the placement survey. As you can see here, this is the detached garage that's under construction right now. The building setbacks are shown at 20 feet, again, for the side of a garage or a house, and a 25-foot setback for a garage facing the street. Here's the property line. So from the property line, 11.5 feet, give or take, and then another 13.5 feet make the 25-foot setback required. So this is a 13.5-foot encroachment that was shown on this surveyor's plan that shows the construction, where the location of that garage under construction is. The other setbacks are fine. There's a 10-foot PUE. They're meeting that setback. They're meeting the 5-foot setback on this south side, as well as a 25-foot setback or 20-foot setback from Gem Lane. Staff began discussions with the owner regarding modification of the garage and plans how to meet the zoning setback requirements. Options that were discussed included removal of the encroaching portion of the garage, obtaining a variance, or submittal of a damage claim against the city. The city did receive a damages claim form on September 15th for this. However, the applicant has still decided to submit this request for a major variance to exhaust their options relating to moving or demolishing a portion of the garage. The requested variance is to allow in a 13.5-foot encroachment into the required 25-foot setback for the garage. That concludes staff's presentation. Open any questions the planning committee, excuse me, the Board of Adjustment may have. Thank you.
Okay, we are at the table for questions of staff, and I'm going to start with, I don't even know where to begin, but let's first start with the permit application. And you may or may not be able to answer some of these, Mr. Morris, and maybe Mr. Schmeling can chime in if necessary. The drawing and the application for this project, is this all that was submitted for the building permit application?
Based on my understanding, yes, there's a building permit application and then a site plan. I believe there would typically be construction plans as part of that. I do not review plans myself. We know that they submitted things that were reviewed. The plans were reviewed and the permit was issued. So presumably they submitted everything they needed to. There's obviously some confusion as to the site plan and where things were actually physically located on the property. But they would have submitted everything that was required for the permit, including plans and site plan and application itself.
Okay, is it not a requirement for a building application to provide a site survey? It is for new construction, is it not for additions and remodels and so forth?
Well, that's a little outside my realm. For additions and whatnot, my understanding is that the reviewers would typically go on based on what's submitted on the plans. If there were questions as to how accurate those plans are, then it would seem there would be maybe a request to provide a more detailed or accurate site plan could be an option. Again, I don't review plans this way. I review things for planning and zoning and design review for planning department, but I don't review for the building side. So I'm not sure exactly what all their requirements are and what the review processes are.
Do we have a representative from the building department? No? Would you might be able to address that, Mr. Schmeling? Maybe?
Stuart Schmeling, Development Services Director. I could, but I would like to have the building official address that, and I know he's participating via Zoom.
He's what?
So he's participating via Zoom.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
So he should be able to answer those questions more specifically with regard to what exactly was submitted and how and when it was reviewed.
And that's going to be who?
I'm sorry. That's Jeff Tuneman.
Okay. Is Jeff available to answer questions? Mr. Tuneman, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thanks, Jeff.
All right. Yeah. Good morning. This is Jeff Tuneman, the building official. And yes, a complete set of plans was submitted for this property, which would include a foundation plan, framing plan, floor plan, electrical plan, etc., along with truss calcs. The design was not engineered. It was a conventional design. On additions, we do not require a survey per se, like we do on new single family homes. However, how Mr. Morris stated, if we feel it is necessary, we can request that. And furthermore, on additions at inspection stage, it's left to the building inspector's discretion to request a placement survey if it's felt that it is needed at that time.
Is that how this was caught?
That is not how this was caught. The property pins and whatnot were not exposed at this time. The inspector measured purely off the back of sidewalk, appears per the site plan. So that is, a placement survey was not requested on this permit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tuneman.
You're welcome.
You'll have your opportunity, ma'am. I'll get to you. Is there any other questions of staff by board members? Anybody? Okay. So at this point, then, is the applicant present? Would you like to come to the microphone, state your name for the record, present your case?
My name is Kate McCullough. I'm the owner of the house. First, I want to address a couple of those questions. It was only caught because somebody a citizen driving down Acoma called and complained. So that's the answer to that question. A site survey during this whole process was never, ever once brought up to us. My dad drew these plans, and he's been doing this his whole life. So this isn't something we just slapped together and submitted. So now to my whatever I have to say. So I cannot adequately put into words the amount of physical and emotional stress and strain this has put on myself and my family. Since August 4th, when I was informed, or when I had my first meeting with the city about this has consumed all of my time. I've had several meetings with the city. I've gone out and investigated similar properties to mine and researched all over town. They have no interest in looking at other properties that are similar to mine, just mine. And several times during all of these meetings, they have admitted that it was their mistake. Their only resolution to me has been to fill out a form and file a claim with the insurance company, the city insurance. Like, money is the only thing that's going to fix this. It's not. The garages were not built on a whim. They serve a purpose. I have personal property in California that I need to get over here, that our lease has expired. They want us out. I have a storage unit here also that I've had to get to keep some of that stuff in. On March 5th, when we originally submitted plans to build the garage and the 2 garage on my property, the plans were redlined 3 times. Never once for the placement of the building. For brace walls, for roof ventilation, for Simpson ties, never ever about the placement of the building. We jumped through every single hoop that Carl put in place to get our plans improved. Simpson ties that support a Category 4 hurricane. When I went to Hub to purchase them, the man told me, we never sell these. Because we don't need them here. We don't have Category 4 hurricanes here. On May 6th, our plans were approved. The day we received the approved plans, I went to Home Depot and I purchased every piece of lumber and materials that I would need to build these 2 garages. I also went and purchased all the trusses for them. I've wasted thousands of dollars at Hub, equipment rentals, fill dirt for both of these. Tom, the inspector, has come out to our property and inspected our footings on May 10th and signed off for our work to begin. On May 15th, we poured the concrete. Tom came out, said everything was great, and never ever said anything about the placement at the buildings, at footings, in dirt, when we could have moved it. Never said anything. Tom has been out to our property 2 additional times and has said everything is great. Towards the end of June, we had Tom come out because we had to go to Iowa for 3 funerals. Tom came out and we wanted to roof it to make it weatherproof until we could come back in August and finish it. Tom said, go ahead and roof it. Everything was good. He also, during that time, he wanted us to put up the brace walls. So we did. We've done everything asked of us by the city. Again, everything looked great, never mentioned anything about the placement. On July 7th, I received a call from my 13-year-old daughter while I was in Iowa stating that someone had came by and given her a red piece of paper to stop working, and she had no other information. When I got back, I had a meeting with the city. I had a meeting with Stuart Schmeling, the inspector Tom, Carl, who signed off, and Jeff. Probably that Jeff, I don't remember his last name. During that meeting, they said that someone driving down Tacoma called and complained about the placement of the building and we needed to move it. They stated because we have a unique property. I've had several meetings with the city and every time it's something different. Nobody has ever, until one of our last meetings when Luke mentioned we have a reverse corner lot. Our property is unique because we have 2 front yards. We live on a boulevard. My address is Gem Lane, not Tacoma. They have admitted several times that this was their mistake and the only way to rectify the situation is to complete the form and compensate me for my losses to move it. This has not only caused significant damage to the lumber and materials, but physical stress and strain on my family. As the building stands now, it's almost a total loss because we haven't been able to finish it and it's been exposed to the weather and the elements. In the report, Luke wrote, he stated our motion should be decided because there's no special circumstances applicable to the subject property. Our special circumstance is that the city approved our plans. The inspector's been out there 3 times and never once mentioned anything. Number 2 in the report, Luke states that approving the request would constitute a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the vicinity. Our special privilege is, again, the city messed up. We did everything that was asked of us. Everything that was asked of us. Nobody asked for a site plan. Nobody ever mentioned in the times that we came out or the 3 times that it was redlined that to move the building. Anybody complaining about it should be informed that the city made a mistake and that our garage is permitted as it stands due to that mistake. Lastly, Luke states that approving this request would be materially detrimental to the public convenience and health interests, safety, and welfare of the city. That's a ridiculous statement. On Tacoma, from the 95 all the way down to industrial, there are several houses that don't meet the 25-foot required setback that is trying to be forced on us. And additionally, there are several block walls and mailboxes. In the 3 years that we've lived in that house, nobody has ever come into our front yard. The accidents happen on the other side of the street, up at the top of the curve, with the 2 model houses that have been hit several times. And the house right next door to those model houses has been hit 3 times on that curve, never on our side. The person that lives in that house, because their house has been hit so many times, they're moving. On August 10th, I sat in a city council meeting where Luke enthusiastically lobbied for a developer to get several variances. This developer was requesting variances on houses to reduce the setback. And I've asked several times, what's the difference between us and the developer? I have submitted the insurance claim. Our claim, I have a quote from a contractor to repair it. His quote to repair and to finish the garages is $204,000. The total claim for the city is $449,000 if we don't get this variance. Do you have anything you want to add?
Only that, yeah.
Please come to the microphone and state your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Steve McCullough. I'm co-owner and help build. We did everything in this manual that they gave us this manual. Follow it, everything's in there. Well, there's nothing in there about a 25-foot setback anywhere on there. You look at our plans, these plans here, there's nothing that says 25-foot setback. When we went in to meet with the city, the inspector, first thing he said was, we didn't require you to get a site survey because we didn't think you had the money. Well, we had the money to pay for the permit. We had the $1,360 for the permit. We spent $50-some thousand on material. We spent $6,000 on concrete, but we didn't have money for a site survey. We could have stopped all of this if they'd have done that, and it's required. Well, it's not required in this book, doesn't require anyone to get a site survey of any kind. We did everything they asked us to do. We added bolts, we added walls, we added wing walls. Even when the concrete was ready, he came out and he goes, "We don't like the copper wire for the ground. You need bigger copper wire." We went and got bigger. We complied with everything they wanted. And now they wanted to move it, set it back. Even if you give us the 15-foot setback, we're still 11 foot inside our property line and 20-some foot from the street. So it's not going to obstruct anybody's view. Our neighbor to the south of us has plenty of view going up and down the street to get out of his driveway. He's more than happy. All the neighbors have signed off on it, think it's great. Not a problem. We can show you pictures of the street from north to south. It's not something that stands out like a battleship. It's just a garage. We'll show you some pictures. You can see for yourself. In fact, when we built it, we built the 4 walls. The garage was standing with all 4 walls. And we found out the trusses hadn't been ordered because in the process of moving their office, they lost the trusses, the order for the trusses. They didn't lose the money. They lost the order. Took 5 weeks. So that garage sat there, all 4 walls built for 5 weeks. No one said a thing. Driving by it is on a comb. It's not out in the desert. It's not up in the hills. It's right on a comb. The inspectors drive by every day. Planners drive by. You've all probably driven by it several times. No one has said a thing about it. So all we need is a 15-foot, and we can go ahead and finish our garage. It costs us $1,800 a month when that garage isn't finished because we've got storage over in California. We want to get these cars over here. So, and the 15-foot still leaves us 10-foot, 11-foot inside our property lines. According to this book, we're great. We're in good standing. Thank you.
If that person wouldn't have called and complained, we would have been finished by now. And nobody would have ever said anything. Nobody would have noticed. Nobody would have said anything because we were going by the book and everything that has been told to us.
Anything else?
This is the garage. This is the garage. These are going down a coma. These are other houses that are on corner lots that aren't being required to have the 25 setback. You can clearly see. These are the houses, the 2 model houses, and our neighbor's house that gets hit all the time. Clear across the street, never on our side. Yeah.
Anything else to add?
Not at the moment.
Okay, do we have any questions of the applicant by board members? Mr. Bergen.
What do you intend to put in this garage?
I have hot rods, I have tools, I have motorcycles, I have stuff that normally goes in a garage.
Typical garage contents.
Yes,
But it's very large.
yes.
Yeah.
I have several cars. Boyfriend is a hot rod builder, has a car collection. And I don't know why that's relevant, but,
It's not.
okay.
We have a shop. It's going to be a shop for us, just for us. We have a huge collection of cars
Okay.
over in California. We got all the tools over in California. We want to get them over here. That's why we concentrated on this big garage is to get, because it costs us $1,800 a month.
It's more than $1,800. It costs us several $1,000s a month to keep that, and our lease is expired. They want us out.
But we have a large collection of cars that we want to bring over here and get them in storage.
Tools, personal property, stuff that normally goes in a garage.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of the applicant? Thank you very much, Ms. McCulloch.
Thank you.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I will now open it up to the public. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to speak on this item? Please come forward and state your name for the record. Thank you.
Well, I wasn't planning to speak, but my name is Lauren Fries. I own the house at 557 Gem Lane, 2 doors down from you guys. It's a rental. I come and go to that house all the time doing repairs and working on stuff. There's no problem with this garage. You can come in and out of that street on Oklahoma. It doesn't block your visibility or anything. It's not an issue.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak on this item? Anybody at all? Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion of the meeting, bring it back to the table for staff's recommendations.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you. In accordance with state law, the city code, certain criteria must be met in order to grant a variance. Under Arizona revised statutes, the Board of Adjustment may consider requests for variances from a municipality's zoning ordinance only if, because of special circumstances applicable to the property, including its size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, the strict application of the zoning ordinance will deprive the property owner of privileges enjoyed by other properties of the same classification in the same zoning district. So comparing apples to apples. Any variance granted shall not constitute a grant of special privileges or be inconsistent with the limitations based on other properties in the vicinity and the zone in which the property is located. In accordance with the city code, a variance application may be approved only if it complies with the following criteria. 1, because of special circumstances applicable to the subject property, including location, size, shape, surroundings, topography, or other conditions, the strict application of this development code deprives the property of privileges enjoyed by other property of the same classification in the same or an identical zoning district. 2, the special circumstances create an unnecessary hardship which is not the result of actions of the applicant or self-imposed by the property owner. And 3, granting the variance would not constitute a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations of other properties in the vicinity and zoning district in which the subject property is located. And 4, granting the variance would not be materially detrimental to the public convenience, health, interest, safety, or welfare of the city, or injurious to the property or improvements in the vicinity and zoning district in which the subject property is located. It's important to note that financial hardship or impact is not among the factors to consider when reviewing a variance. With that said, here the staff findings are that staff finds the size, shape, topography, location, and surroundings of the subject lot are typical to others in the area. Lot sizes in the neighborhood range from 0.23 to 0.8 acres. Reverse corner lots in the area range from 0.3 to 0.43 acres. As a 0.33 acre reversed corner lot, the size of the subject property is common for the area. There's nothing unusual about the property to warrant a variance. Approving the proposed variance would constitute a granting of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the vicinity and zoning district in which the subject property is located. Other reverse corner lots in the area are not allowed to encroach into the 25-foot garage setback. Granting this request would constitute a special privilege for the property owner. Approving the proposed variance would be materially detrimental to the public convenience, health, interest, safety, or welfare of the city, or injurious to the property or improvements in the vicinity and zoning district in which the property is located. Allowing a garage to be located 11 feet from the Acoma Boulevard property line would create a potential traffic hazard. Based on these findings, staff recommends that Land Use Action 21-013-00092 be denied for the following reasons. 1, there are no special circumstances applicable to the subject property which deprives the property of privileges enjoyed by other properties in the same classification, in the same or an identical zoning district. And 2, approving the request would constitute a grant of special privileges inconsistent with the limitations on other properties in the vicinity and zoning district in which subject property is located. And 3, approving the request would be materially detrimental to the public convenience, health, interest, safety, or welfare of the city, or injurious to the property or improvements in the vicinity and zoning district in which the property is located. Thank you.
Okay, we are at the table for discussion and or a motion. I'm going to start the discussion, and I'm going to try and introduce into the record some reasoning that hasn't been put forth here today. Your property, unfortunately, is what we call a double frontage setback property here in town, and there's hundreds of them, maybe thousands of them all over town. They do require a double frontage setback for view, distance, corridors, and setbacks for structures, for driveways, et cetera. In your particular case, take into account that it is a double frontage setback property. It's a given. It was zoned and ruled that way back in the beginning. The fact that there's a 25-foot setback for a garage is there for a purpose, so that a vehicle parked in front of the garage, which happens all the time with anybody who has a garage, will not hang over into the right-of-way. Reducing your property or reducing your setback to a 11.5-foot driveway capability, anybody that would park in that driveway, even the smallest of vehicles, would be hanging over into the right-of-way. Beyond your property line. The current right-of-way is not at the property line, but at some point in time it could be. So that's one of the reasons, or the main reason, for that aspect of the driveway aspect of the setback. The fact that it didn't get caught, that's on the city. And I think they've already stipulated to that, and they've mentioned that. I feel for your financial impact. I absolutely do. And in another circumstance where it might be like on Gem Lane or something like that and not a coma, we might have been able to accommodate. And I'm just speaking in my opinion, not for the board members at this point. But the fact that it's on a coma is and will create a hazard or potential hazard in the future. I kind of disagree a little bit with Mr. Morris and the city's findings. Item number 1, yes, there are other conditions, being that the city did make a mistake in their review of this aspect of the permit application. And there are special circumstances, and that being one of them, that we could take into consideration. But that item number 4, will it be detrimental to the health, safety, welfare of the public? I believe it will be, in my opinion. So that's, in just a moment, I'll let you come up and rebut in a moment. But that's my take on this. And again, I'm not speaking for other board members. And at this point, I will ask other board members to chime in. Anybody? Mr. Casey.
I've always been, as a contractor also, I've always been responsible for my setbacks. I believe it is always the contractor's responsibility to know where setbacks are. In this case, the owner builder was making this decision without having a surveyor, a $350 surveyor, come out and survey the lot. It would have alleviated this whole problem in the beginning.
Would have helped a lot, but nonetheless, that's the situation
that's where we're
involved with at this point. Is that it, Mr.
Yes.
Casey? Anybody else? Any comments? Mr. Bergen, do you have a comment? Turn your microphone on there.
Going along with what Mr. Harris has just said, I agree with what was said. The fact that the city made these mistakes in the beginning and have resulted in a lot of construction work on the site is a serious concern. And I can understand why the applicant is making this request. However, I drove over and looked at this. And when I looked at the garage, I thought it was going to be an RV garage. It is that big. And boy, if it ever was used that way, you would never be able to get an RV out of there in that little space without going into one or two lanes of a coma. And even with a smaller vehicle, you're still going to be going into a coma as you're backing out. And a coma is a heavy traffic street with a curve. And I just think it could result in a rather serious accident if this was approved. And for that reason, I have to back off any kind of improvement.
Anybody else? Any other board member want to chime in? No. Okay. This is kind of out of the ordinary, but if you'd like to come back to the podium and make comments.
My first comment is, one, it's not a $350 survey. It's a couple $1,000 survey that nobody ever brought up to us.
And that has been stipulated that.
So I just want to know, it's not $350, it's several $1,000s. Second, the garage, the way that it's designed, if you look at the garages and the way the other one is placed, which I've already purchased everything for, all the materials and the lumber, I have it on the property. That other garage goes into it. Nobody is ever entering from a coma into that big garage. So your concern of somebody backing out of there is a non-issue because we enter from Gem, and that is not the purpose of that side garage entrance, is to enter from Gem. So if you look on the subject property, so at the top by the S, coming from a coma, you don't enter from there. You enter from Gem, and I don't.
But you do have a driveway on the application.
Yes.
For that.
So a driveway, to make it easier, the driveway is also approved on there. So coming in and out of there, but that's not the main purpose of that. The purpose of that big garage is to enter from there. We do have one, yes, just because of the way that we pull out sometimes, but that's not the main entrance to that.
The only reason there's a garage door on the big garage facing the coma is because we have so many cars that are in various stages of being rebuilt. Some are rollers, some are frames, some are off frames. Our resident garage, which we'll use for us, the smaller garage, has a driveway going to Gem where we'll park. There'll never be a car parked on a coma into that driveway. That's there for bringing car in and cars out. It'll never be an RV garage. It's 12 foot tall so that we can put stands in there and stack cars up. We must have, I don't know what we've got total. My one daughter has a 70 Nova. She's got a 66 Thunderbird. I've got a 66 El Camino. He's got probably 15 cars. We want to be able to stack them in that garage and still be able to work on them. It's not a garage that's going to be used daily, in and out. It's a garage that once in a while we'll bring a car in and roll it in on a trailer. The other garage, the smaller garage, the driveway goes to Gem. That's where we'll park. That's residential garage. That's
All
where we'll
of,
park.
all of the parking is above the driveway and all of the land right there.
But as it's represented and as it's been built, it is being built as a garage with a garage opening in that location. And
We've in one of our several meetings, we said, okay, we'll close that.
Yeah, we'll
if
close it in.
this is a different subject, but if it were presented as a different structure, there might be something that could be done by this panel.
What do you want to call it? A shop?
If it was a blank wall and there was
Okay,
no.
we've said in several meetings that we would close that wall
That's
in.
not what we're here to discuss today. We're discussing the way it sits. And we're going to have to, at least in my opinion, I'm going to have to say no for that reason.
Well, we park trucks there. It's not out into the street.
It's not a matter of being in the street, sir.
The view of our neighbor to the south of us has plenty of vision for any cars coming up and down the street he can back out of.
But it's not
There's nothing beyond that.
It's not a matter of being in the street. It's a matter of being into the right-of-way.
They're
The
not.
right-of-way starts at your property line.
They're not
And
in the
11
right
feet
of
is
way.
not enough room to park a vehicle in.
Yes, there is. We come out there and I'll put my truck there and show you.
So, anything else that you'd like to say?
Not at the moment.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. All right, we are at the table for any further discussion and/or a motion. Anybody?
I'm so sorry. You guys have to speak into the microphone. You can't have a side
I was just-
discussion. It's okay.
Little instruction there. So we are at the table for discussion and/or a motion. Do we have a motion by any board members? The chairman cannot make a motion. Mr. Bergen?
I would just state that now if they're talking now about, instead of an RV, they're talking about moving cars in there to be worked on. That can take a larger truck type thing to bring those cars in. So again, it's too small a space. And I would move for denial of the request.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. I have a motion by Mr. Bergen, a second by Mr. Casey to move for denial of the request 21-01300092. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and call for the question.
Mr. Bergen?
Yes.
Mr. Casey?
Deny.
Well, are you voting for the motion or against the motion? The motion is to deny.
Yes, voting for it.
Okay.
Mrs. Hill?
Yes.
Mr. Toomey?
Yes.
And Mr. Harris?
Yes. And I would encourage you to pursue other avenues, all avenues available to you.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, future meetings of the Board of Adjustments.
Can I just add one more thing that I'd like on the record?
She can call the public. Just wait 1 minute.
I'm gonna call to the public in a moment, and you can put that on the record. Future meetings.
We have none scheduled at this point. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the call to the public. Anybody can come to the microphone and speak on whatever subject they would like. It will be on the record. We may not address you at this point in the call to the public, but if you'd like to come to the microphone, please do so. Restate your name for the record.
Kate McCullough, owner of the subject property on 549 Gem. I don't need any response. I just want it noted on the record that in 2 previous meetings that I've had with the city, prior to even the date set up this, I was already told that this was going to be denied. So I don't feel like we had a chance at all.
Well, nobody
Thank you.
Oh, I can't say anything. Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I'm sorry.
This decision just cost us $60,000. What do we do? We're just going to leave it, tear it down? What? You made the decision to stop it, but now we're out $60,000 or more.
It's not $60,000.
Well, 60,000 plus. So what do we do now?
The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We do stand adjourned.